Hello, geometry kids, and thank you for tuning in today for Target 2 of Unit 7, Apply Properties of Congruent Figures. Let's get started. Okay, example 1, identify congruent parts. Write a congruent statement for the triangle. Identify all parts of congruent corresponding parts. So, what is a congruent statement? A congruent statement is what we are going to look at up here, this part right here. So, we want to look at our triangle. Triangle ABC starts at the right angle, then goes across the side with two congruent marks, and then up the hypotenuse up to C. So from A to B to C. Now when we write our congruent statement, we would like this part to go in the same order as the first triangle did. So that means that our triangle statement will go from F to G to H. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle FGH. So now this way that if our congruent statement is correct, then we know that all of these corresponding angles and corresponding sides will be the same. So in the first triangle, angle A is congruent to angle F. Now notice that angle A occurs first in the congruent statement, and so does F. So that means those two are corresponding. Angle B is congruent to angle G. B is second in our congruent statement, and so is G. So these two are corresponding. Angle C is congruent to angle H. And finally, angle C is the last letter, and so is H. Now let's check out our corresponding sides. So, side AB, so notice that in our congruent statement we have AB. What would that be congruent to? Well, according to our congruent statement, it's congruent to FG. So, side AB is congruent to FG. Side BC is congruent to GH. And side CA starts with the last letter and goes to the first, is congruent to, must be HF. Okay, so the order is very important. If your congruent statement is not correct, then that's going to throw off the rest of the problem for you. So you want to make sure that you guys understand how to write proper congruent statements.
Alright, in example 2, we have to use properties of congruent figures. In the diagram, QRST is congruent to WXYZ. We have to find the values of X and Y. So luckily, they gave us a congruent statement. QRST, quadrilateral, is congruent to quadrilateral WXYZ. So if you look at it, angle Q and angle W are first written down in your congruent statement for each figure. So that means that both of those angles are going to be congruent. Same thing with R and X, S and Y, and then T and Z. Alright, since we have to find the values of X and Y, well, let's focus on one variable at a time. Let's start with X. Now, if you look at the diagram, there's an X here representing angle X. There's an X here representing the side WX to be in the expression Y minus X. And there's another X here for angle W being 5X plus 5. I would not use angle X because we're not trying to find the measurement of angle X. We're trying to find the value of the variable X. I would not use the expression Y minus X because we don't even know what the variable Y represents. So I'm going to stick with the one X that I know, which is going to be 5X plus 5, which is angle W. I know that angle W right away is equal to angle Q thanks to our congruent statement. So QRST, well, thanks for that. Q is congruent to angle W, angle Q and angle W. Alright, so then we're going to use that statement, and right now, angle W is represented by 5X plus 5. So I'm going to substitute in 5X plus 5 for angle W, and that's going to be equal to, well, angle Q is 65 degrees. Once you have your equation set up, now you just solve for the variable. Okay, so then we have X equals 12, which is one of the variables we have to find. Alright, now that we found the value of x, let's find the value of y. Now we don't care about angle y. We need the value of the variable y. So the value of y, is written in an expression for y minus x to represent side wx. Side wx is the same side or is congruent to the side qr. I can use my congruency statement here. Since wx are the first two letters in my congruent statement for the second figure, qr is the first two, or I guess the first side and the first two letters written in the first figure in your congruent statement, and you can easily line up those two sides to be congruent. So then since y minus x, which is represented by wx, is equal to qr, or congruent to qr, which is 6 inches, okay, that would be the equation that you can set up first. Alright, so we have two variables, y minus x equals 6. Well, we're going to use the value of 12 and substitute that in for our variable x. Okay, then we solve. Alright, so now we have our value of x and our value of y, and we are donezo. Alright, this next theorem is called the third angles theorem. It's stating that if two angles of one triangle are congruent, so angle A, angle B, are marked with congruent signs, or congruent arcs not congruent to each other, if they are congruent to two other angles of another triangle, then the third angle, should be third angle, are also congruent. Alright, so if angle B is marked congruent, so is angle E, so these two angles are congruent, and angle A and angle D are the same measurement as well, well, it has to be true that the last remaining angles are also congruent, since all the interior angles of each triangle add up to 180 degrees.
Okay, we're going to use the third angles theorem for this example. Okay, we're looking for angle V. So, what can we conclude first? Well, according to our diagram, angle VWU is congruent to angle STU. So those are those two angles that are marked with the congruent symbols in the picture. So we know that. What else do we know? We know that if they are congruent, then their measure is 66 degrees. So both of them are 66 degrees. We also know that angle SVT is congruent to angle VUW because those are vertical angles. Good job to those of you who spotted that. So that means that those two angles in the middle are both 44 degrees. Okay, so let's fill in our picture with what we know. 66 degrees and 44 degrees. Now we have to think, what should all the interior angles of a triangle add up to? Well, 180 degrees. So, using what we know about the third angles theorem, we can finally conclude and figure out the measure of angle V. Well, angle VWU, right over here, VWU is 66 degrees, plus the measure of angle VUW, so VUW is right here, plus the measure of that final angle, WVU, all these U's, V's, and W's look like, equals 180 degrees. So let's fill in what we know about them. 66 degrees plus 44 degrees plus the measure of angle V is equal to 180. We add 66 and 44 and get 110. Subtract 110. And angle V is 70 degrees.
Alright, try these next 4 questions on your own. Pause the video and then unpause it to reveal, and we will reveal all the answers to the next 4 questions. Alright, check to see if you got these right. Pause the video so that you can see and you can kind of check your answers as you go along. Just kind of match them up and mark anything that you got wrong. And again, try these next 2. Pause the video and then see how you do. Alright, check to see if you got these right, and if not, mark them and then ask us or ask me the next day.
That's it, guys. Make sure you come to class prepared with any questions that you have tomorrow.